Okay, welcome to CSS 299, the second meeting. This is Wednesday afternoon, a little after 1:30. I am given to understand that there doesn't appear to be anybody else on live with me, so I'm going to simply go through some of the material that I wanted to cover and get started on that. First off, I want to encourage everyone to get the assignments in. Get in the assignments for this week, and let's go to that. I'm going to go to the modules, and we'll just discuss again what's due this week, and hopefully we can get this done. So here's the shell. So this week, those of you who haven't done the introduce yourself, please do so. What you'll see here is I have added some pages from the textbook that we use here in Fort Collins in the on-ground class. I don't know if you have a textbook for the online or what it is, but it has some resume examples. I'm going to be gradually copying more material on to the rest. This document, PDF pages from chapter 1 is, I'm going to go ahead and open this and come on, wake up. All right. So you have copies of the first couple of pages plus some examples of a couple of resumes. We will go through those in a bit ourselves. So basically right now what I want to do is quickly review what we need to do this week. The job posting, I've had a couple of those come to me already. Good. Both of the ones that have come to me have two job postings in them. If you want to apply for both of those, if this is the right time to do that, then do it. You can use this class as your springboard. Be happy to help with resumes and other things. If you're not ready to be applying, if you're still a couple of months or more from graduation, then what I suggest to do is pick one and concentrate on that while we're in this class. Learn what you need to learn. The discussion, we've had a couple of posts. We've had one post to the discussion so far. Please, by tonight, get your initial posting done, and then I probably will be putting in a few responses. The assignment 3, the 6 questions, these are to sort of spur your thinking about who you are, how you work, how you want to work. Please get those done as well. As I said, we have a first draft resume, and then we want to talk about cover letters today. Again, a one-page document, and we'll talk a lot more about that. Remember, this is your first draft. This is not meant to be the final, so expect me to make comments. My comments are going to be very much directed toward how I think you can improve it to be the kind of document you want it to be. Your resume and your cover letter are sales documents. They should be very easy to read in terms of not being loaded with jargon and acronyms and other things, other than you can have certain acronyms that are commonly used, but try to avoid such things. Also, anything that goes in should have a very clear value. There's plenty of time in the interview and job preparation stage for getting a lot of those interesting details about the various different kinds of work you've done, what you've learned on all the jobs. You know, once you go in for that interview, it will be your opportunity to really answer and deal with many of the things that you may want to be putting into your resume and your cover letter. But these are the things. Remember, these are the first draft. We want you to really work on that. Remember to check the transferable and technical skills. Where do you find that information? Well, it comes out of the week 1 resources. If you come up here and you look at this, there's a worksheet here. This worksheet is a Word document. And let's do this. This is for you. I don't expect to see this. In fact, if you want to send it, that's okay. I don't care. But I don't expect to see this. But it does allow you to look at the various categories here and actually place an evaluation of the things that really strongly characterize you to a large extent, and those that describe you to some extent. If there are things that have nothing to do with you, then don't mark it at all. Now, one of the things that you might say as you look here, well, you know, some of these, a lot of these do have something to do with me, and that may be true. But understand that this is to try and again, to find out who you are. And what I suggest when you do this worksheet is you look at each term and answer it with your first reaction. First reaction is likely to be your most accurate, because once we start thinking about these, our first reaction might be that, let's just go down here and look at innovative. And I'm just going to say your first reaction, and I don't mean any of you, but your first reaction might be, no, I'm not innovative. Write it down that way, because it's who you think you are. If you sit and you think about things, then you're going to change your answers. So first impressions are the best as far as I'm concerned. Transferable and technical skills. We all know what the technical skills are. When you're talking about technical skills, you're looking at the things that are the hard skills of our jobs. In the medical field, your technical skills might include phlebotomy, vital sign measurements, giving injections. I mean, or it might be as a pharmacy technician doing compounding. So you have these training. In the computer field, your technical skills might be programming in Java, or might be maintenance of router systems or server systems, or you may have actually worked in a server farm at some point and had to troubleshoot issues. Those are technical skills. Transferable skills are the things that are really more about how we work, and things like learning about things like customer service. If you've worked as a successful wait staff in a restaurant, you've learned about customer skills. If you've been successful, If you weren't successful, you didn't learn a whole lot. But many of these things can be taken into many other jobs. However, the technical skills are a little bit are really a job directed. Same with organizational and interpersonal skills. We think if we look at this, we go down here, and you might think to yourself, "I'm not good at managing time." That might be your first reaction when you see that, or you might think, "Yeah, I'm really good at that." So again, your first response. So these are the transferable skills. Look at these, and take a look at this entire list. And in this case, it's just check it off. This is not your personality. This is not your work style and organizational skills. These are the kinds of things that you have. You can be a very adaptive person. Check it. You may hate to audit records. Don't check. Okay. So look at these. Look at these in that fashion. The skills that we have, we know about our technical skills. Transferable skills, as I say, are things that will help you in any position you may actually be in. So that's a place there. Resumes can take many forms. But the one thing I'll emphasize again, excuse me, drink a little water here. Keep your initial resume to one page. The multi-page material describing everything you've ever done goes into your master application. The master application is something we'll be working on next week, but it's what we are going to pull together that has all of the details, so that when we go into our employer or prospective employer, and they want you to fill out their application. I mean, you send in, rarely do we anymore have an application for professional jobs. We send them a resume. If they like us, then they have us do a little bit more. But you'll fill out an application. The application will have a lot more detail. Your resume does not contain references. And the reason is that your references are irrelevant if they're not interested in you. And if they are interested in you, what you want is a chance to interview and talk with them first before they contact your references. You want to impress them. Also, remember your references. Be very careful about references. Don't choose your best friend unless your best friend happens to also be someone who's a professional in your own field, and he's your best friend because you've worked together and worked successfully together. But the other thing is, be careful that you don't pick someone who's going to inadvertently even sabotage your application, which they can do by sounding a little wishy-washy about you, or having something, or saying something, maybe even in jest, that maybe is better if it's not heard. Okay, so let's go to here and talk about the pages that I put in from the text. Okay. Let's try something here, see if this works. All right. So now we're sharing this. So this actually starts off with basically why do they want to see your resume even in addition to the application? Well, there's a couple of things. Resumes are generally a quick one-page. Most employment applications are multi-pages, and they don't want to wade through multi-pages of applications until they've decided that they like you. Why do they want the application? Well, they're in addition to the information on your resume, your application will have a lot of other kinds of information that they need for getting you set up. Should you, at the time, be giving them your social security number and all that sort of thing? No. Or your bank routing information for direct deposit of paychecks? Absolutely not. That shouldn't happen until you actually are hired and have to fill out the appropriate paperwork. But there will be more details in it. What were your duties? What were a lot of these things? Right now, if you take a look, we'll go on further. If we take a look at a resume, let's just take a look at this one here. This one is reasonable. My personal preference is that all of this information be centered, but that's my personal preference. It doesn't mean that's the way it has to be done. If we look at this, we have medical office job desired. So there is the objective. So if the application is being sent to, or if the resume is being sent to someone who is looking for a phlebotomist, they probably won't even look at it. You know, what you want, this should match the job that you picked. That's why we had you pick a job first. Education follows next. Skills, yes. Okay, so we have skills here. Have various skills and abilities. This is rather lengthy. On the other hand, it's the sort of thing that if you looked at the position being offered, if it's a medical assistant position, these are all things that they should be able to do. It's critical in the medical field, for instance, that you let them know that you have current CPR and first aid certifications. You can forget another thing that you probably will have to do, which is regular bloodborne pathogens training, because you'll get that at the office anyway. I wouldn't worry about that, even though if you've gone through our program here in the medical field, you've already had bloodborne pathogens training at least once. But that's something you have to do every year. Anything that might differentiate you here in terms of a skill. This person has written down language skills include ability to read, write, and speak Hungarian. Well, okay, that's great. But if the job is looking for someone who reads, writes, and speaks Spanish, this isn't going to help you. Okay, so all of these things are there. Experience, this is sort of related. Clerk part-time at the IRS service in San Antonio, or in Amarillo. So there, you would have, as a clerk, you would be having, customer service skills, probably computer skills, and multi-line phone experience. Now, if we go back up here to skills and abilities, for this job, is it critical that she received a first place award for needlepoint? No, I wouldn't put that in. Email and internet experience very limited. That is not going to be useful. Rather than say that, I would take it out. And quite frankly, working in any sort of job these days, you do need to have email and internet experience. So I would find a way to get it. And we all know it's not very hard. but it is something that I wouldn't put in. Let's see. Okay. Experience in completing tax forms and communicating discrepancy to taxpayers. Nothing to do with the medical office. Take that out. I would pull that out. Okay, so the patient histories, current CPR, using billing documentation for billing insurance, terminology, proficient with Microsoft Word and Excel, good. Forget the needlepoint award. Multi-line phone experience screening patient calls and scheduling appointments. That's probably useful. Excellent patient skills, friendly, patient, and aggressive. I have no idea what aggressive means in this particular place, but I probably would not be including that. So there's a lot of things that you can make part of your work here. All right. Let's see. Let's go take a look at the next one down. We have Rafael Cortez. I'm going to jump to the next one first. This one is really kind of, it doesn't look particularly good. First off, as I've said before, I would prefer to see this part, the letterhead centered. He has an objective. He's looking for an administrative assistant position with the Orange School District. This may be who is exactly the job he's applying for. So if you were answering a position in the San Rafael School District, you probably wouldn't say you were looking for a job in the Orange School District. Associate's degree in business office operations, 3 years experience in internship in high school administrative office, excellent word processing, bilingual. If that is a requirement, for sure. Even if it's not a requirement, people are always impressed with people who are multilingual. Chosen as a leader of the college business club, I certainly would not include that. It's irrelevant. Office skills, okay. Typing, 10-key touch. That's a 10-key calculator by touch. Works well with peers, industrious and dependable. Missed only one school day in the last year. I probably wouldn't put that in. Quick learner. I probably would say, I probably would modify that to so I didn't think about that. Quick learner is such a jargon term anymore. Even though they do have it here as well, but we're just looking at the layout. Education, quite frankly, this is there. My personal opinion is that I wouldn't put in a statement that you completed the program with a 3.4 GPA. That's very good. There's nothing wrong with it. They'll see that when they get the transcript of your education because they will require it. Everybody does these days. Officer in the Phi Beta Lambda, fine. That might be something you'd put down under achievements and honors as well. Employment, internship with the Washington Union High School. Some of these things are not terribly useful. Listing all of these things that you did, I think what you'd want to do is again, you go back to the job description, find out what they really want, emphasize that. Being a customer service and sales associate for Bargain Mart. About the only value to that, to me, is being able to show that you are capable of dealing with a wide variety of customers. Now, your customers in a school can be a wide range of people, from parents to students to school board members to God knows who else, but an awful lot of people. So customer service skills would be good to emphasize. If we go back up here, now what we've got, if we go back here, we've got just a heading and then basically straight in. There's no differentiation. The heading should really always be set off a little bit. So objective, so here. And what we have is, it's very clear what the sections are: objective, qualifications, education, employment, and then the information goes in. Some of my comments still hold. I probably would take out the chosen as a leader of college business club. That would go in a different section under achievements and honors. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, that's the one that's a poor appearance. So note that these are all one page. The reason they're one page is that hiring managers, as I said in class the other day, hiring managers tend to get a lot of applicants, and they just really don't have time or inclination to read a lot. So we want to be short, sweet, and to the point. We want to be easy to read. This is a little, to me, hard to read, especially compared to this. This is really, if you're interested in, first off, education, does he have the degree we need? That's one of the first questions. They're always going to have some form of educational need. If their requirement is a high school diploma or a GED certificate, that's what you list. If you have more than that, list it too, but make sure that it's there. Now, the idea with a college degree, unless they've actually specified that they want someone with a high school degree, a college degree implies either a high school certificate or a GED certificate, because you can't get into college without one or the other. Okay. We'll go back to no, we won't. We'll do something different. Get rid of that. Come over here. All right. All right, now we'll go back to modules. I will upload a few more pages today. I'm a little hesitant to do that too much. I want to give you a few other good examples of resumes, and I want to talk about the one resume I've received. I did ask permission, and I wasn't told by the student that I couldn't. Okay. Let's stay here and go down to what I'll do is bring this up. Okay, this document, the resume checklist, is also in the first document. Come on, the resources, week one resources. So use use this as well on here. Let's see. Let me go through and okay. We'll bring this up. This is from Sean, one of the students here in the class. Just as an aside, Sean, how big is Chandler these days? I actually lived outside Chandler at what was at the time Williams Air Force Base back in the 1950s. So just don't know how big it is. I haven't been back to that part of Arizona in a long time. Let's just take a look. First off, Sean's resume is 4 pages long. This is actually, I like the layout. In general, I like the fact that it's a very plain set of fonts. What I don't like is that there are several different fonts in the document. Those all should be the same. I have seen people get really irritated when the font changes from paragraph to paragraph. That's even if it remains the same size. So let's do that. The layout here for your email and address here, I would probably drop this down here. Let's just take that out, and I would drop this down, and yep, obviously I want to get rid of, I want to change the paragraph. In that, pull it up there. Your spacing in here is kind of critical. I would make that 2 lines, as it's a lot easier to read. So your profile here is really, this is who you are, and that's great, except that it doesn't belong here. It really, this is something that goes into, obviously in a more complete grammar form, into a cover letter. Here is where you would put down the kind of position you are seeking, and that position should be an exact match with the position being advertised. If not an exact match, then an exact alternative name. Excuse me, I've been talking too much today. Certifications, Sean, I sent you a copy of this with some notation on it, so I'm not including that with this. Certifications, I'm assuming that working here is something that you're working on. If not, then you have the certification. So what I would say is when you're doing this, ask yourself when you send it out, are you going to have these certifications, or are they in progress? And I'd rather than working, if they are in progress, I would list it that way. Active security clearance, wonderful. Is it required for the job? If it is, then you want it there. If it's not, it's irrelevant. Okay. Technical skills here, I would shorten this out quite a bit. Operating systems, Windows. I assume that means that you don't deal with Linux or the OS, the Mac OS, or any of that. Routers, you got a lot of routers here. I would just say a variety of Cisco and Juniper routers, and just leave it at that. Switches, same thing, a variety of Cisco switches. If someone wants to know the switches, you'll have this with you. You can give them the list. Actually, if you wanted to have this longer version or something that matched in many ways the one pager that you could hand to somebody, that's okay too. Software, this is actually potentially very, very useful as a list. I don't have a problem with that. Education, College America, you list down here May 2018. I assume that's when you're going to graduate. That's great. So this is where you say you're working towards these certifications while completing the studies, if indeed you haven't, if you don't have them already. I would pull a lot of this material out. Just give your degree and the date it's going to be received. Vista College, okay, the date that you were there, the associate in it looks like two. Okay, you've got 2 Associate of Applied Sciences in IT, different specializations. So that's something to emphasize. While it's certainly impressive that you have been doing this, I've just really taken a closer look. These match. There's no reason to have this here and this here because you no longer are at Vista. You already have your degree. So you're no longer at Vista. Then this makes it look like you're taking forever to get these certifications, which may be the case. I don't know. They may be difficult. I don't know anything about these particular certifications. I'm a chemist and a medical person. So again, National Technical Honor Society, it's in both. I'd take it out. I would also I would take it virtually everything under the Vista College listing out, for the simple reason that it duplicates what you've got up here pretty much. IT club president's the only thing that's different. Professional experience, here's where we have our first change in font. We've gone from Tahoma and up here someplace I thought we had Arial. I could be wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. Anyway, we have here, here we have Arial. Here we had Tahoma. So pick one. Also, this looks to be the spacing here and the spacing here are different. They appear to be different. Let's take a quick look at what the spacing is. 1.650 multiple 1.05. Okay. Go up here and what we've got, 1.0. Well, it says they're the same. Okay, so I'm wrong. So the difference happens to be with the difference in font. But that creates a visual disconnect to see something that's a different font. And here we've got Arial 10, here we've got Arial 9.5. Should be the same size font. In reality, these days, I would suggest, if at all possible, you want to use a plain font, Arial or Times New Roman, or one of the plain fonts. And I don't care if it's a serif font or a sans serif font. That doesn't matter to me. But you need to pick one, and preferably, especially if your hiring manager might be somebody more my age, you may want to make sure that the print is a little bigger, like 12-point print, as opposed to 9.5 here. So that's one of the reasons I'm seeing a difference. We have 9.5, and what are the spacings on the paragraphing? Yeah. We've got single spacing, so it's different spacing, and especially different after. Okay, so we want to, and quite frankly, this information, this is excellent information. It is really impressive experience that you've had. However, I would, your CBiz Network Solutions in Tempe, you should phone support engineer, troubleshoot and repair hardware and software issues with a variety of telecommunications and computing equipment. Drop it. Okay. Troubleshoot, repair. Okay. And then just leave it at that. And a lot of this is very important. You can talk about what you've done. You can say this in an interview. What did you do at CBiz Network Systems? Or what are you doing, since it's your present job? What are you doing? So then you can talk about you're assisting the field service technicians with installs. You are working with escalation procedures to ensure activities, et cetera. All these things can be done. Going down here to the security, this looks to be like security guard kinds of things. Again, I would not make this as much. And again, we've got Arial 10, Arial 9.5. So I would take out, again, most of this. Screening supervisor, just observing and reporting activities and incidents at an assigned client site. Okay, that would be quite sufficient. So now we come down here to another one, and again, we've switched fonts and sizes. We're back to Tahoma 10. You're here with, obviously, this is part of your military experience. Okay, so information technology intern at Fort Bliss. Oh, just an aside, Fort Bliss is where I did my basic training many years ago. So I have mixed memories of that place. Anyway, the October, so for looks like 2 months on an externship. I probably would hardware and software installation on computing and telecommunications equipment. I'm just looking to see what the rest, I can't remember. On computing, electronic equipment, computer and telecommunications equipment. Okay, and then you have a little longer here. You've got obviously another one from your military experience. Again, at Fort Bliss, we've got satellite communication systems operator. So I probably wouldn't even say anything about that. Human resource specialist at Schofield Barracks. Examine employee files to answer inquiries, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Just leave it. I wouldn't even bother to list what your duties were. Just leave it at that. So you had several things here. You could also combine a lot of this. This is when you were serving in the military. I presume since you were at Fort Bliss, you were in the Army, or at Schofield, you would have been in the Army. So I would just say U.S. Army, Fort Bliss, U.S. Army, stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, and Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, working with communications and electronics equipment. And in human resources, I'd probably do it that way. Your military experience and training is a very, again, a very useful and excellent paragraph. This is something that in a very condensed form, depending on the job. Now, both of your jobs are IT, but they're a little different. So depending on the job you're actually applying for, you would include this in in the cover letter. The cover letter contains a lot more information about who you are. All of this is very critical to being able to do the jobs that you're looking at, as far as I can tell. So, but I don't think it belongs in your resume. So your resume goes down to a page. It starts with objective. This is the kind of position you're looking for. You have qualifications. That can be your certifications and technical skills. Then the education, very quick, and then your professional experience. You've got two positions that obviously, let's see, you were in the military from, looks like from June of 2008 to November of 2000, no, yeah, till November of 2015. The screening officer, one of the reasons I would not put a whole lot of information here is that it merely tells us what you did for several months in 2016. After you got out of the Army, you had a couple of months off, started to work. Then you came, let's see, where did you go to? Vista College. Okay, so you had some time at Vista College in 2014 and 2015. This one I would make sure that just listed the position. It shows that you were working. That's important in one way or another. But this is the important non-military job, the CBiz Network Solutions, which you've been to now since for a year and a half. So that's good. So that's how I'd suggest you restructure this. So in your second draft, restructure, shorten it out, transfer a lot of this information into your master application. Your master application can use a lot of shorthand because your master application doesn't go anywhere but into your portfolio, so that you can pull out and remember names and dates in an application. Also, so that you can refer to it if you have to in an interview. Hopefully, you don't have to. I mean, you'd be asked questions that you're going to just answer. But working toward these things, the certifications, I would just say working toward numerous security certifications. As I said, the security clearance is only important if you are if the job that you're looking for is going to require such a thing, and a lot of jobs do. I'm pretty certain that my nephew, when he left working as a contractor at the Pentagon, doing IT support, when he went to the Navy Federal Credit Union, I'm pretty certain his security clearance was probably a help for that. But I'm guessing, and I'm only guessing he had a clearance, but you don't walk into the Pentagon without it these days. So it's a pretty easy guess. So that's my comment on this. I really like the information. I like the layout, but we've got to get it to be uniform in appearance, which means typeface, size, spacing, etc. Take a look at some of the examples that I will be sending on as I copy some more pages out of the book to send. Okay, so let's stop the share. All right. All right, let's go back here and Go back to this. I want to talk about cover letters now. A cover letter really is has to go with a with your resume. The reason that we wanted to go with your resume is that it has an opportunity for you to really, really sell yourself, to make it very clear who you are, and what you can offer to the company. It too is to be considered a marketing document. It's something that says to the person, here's my resume. Here are the important things. This is why I am a fit for your organization. Cover letters start off fairly straightforwardly. In general, if you can, write it to a specific individual. If it's at all possible, it may be that they'll only tell you send it to human resources. So in that case, you would just send it to human resources. There are several things you can say, that you can use a format like again, use the exact same letterhead on the cover letter as you used on your resume, and then make sure you put a date. The usual stuff: a date, the address of the organization you're writing to, if possible, the name of the individual. If not, then human resources department or hiring manager or whatever. And then you tell them what it's about. This is about, we use the RE, Ray, meaning subject, basically, is, and then name the position that you're applying for, as they put it in the job description. Okay? There's a lot of reasons that I want you to be using things out of the job description. Part of it is that many of these companies are going to run your cover letter and your resume through an engine that will put it into a common format that they use for their hiring. And if you don't have the right words in there, it'll get rejected. And the right words are the words in the job posting. That's why we wanted you to start off with a job posting. So I was very interested or excited, or I was very pleased to read that you have an opportunity in your office or in your organization or whatever. Many of the skills that I possess, I think, make me highly qualified for the position. Then list what your skills are, and make sure that, again, you've gone through. If a college degree is required, tell them you have a college degree from College America, from Vista, from whatever. University of North Carolina, I don't care. Tell them you have a degree. Make sure it's a real degree, of course. But tell them that in the letter, if that is a requirement. Again, if you don't put it in there, one of the questions they may ask themselves is, what's this person hiding from me? Do they actually have this degree, or do I have to go hunting for it? If they have to go hunting for it, they're already looking at a negative. You don't want to give them any reason to have a negative impression, because that's a great way to end up with your cover letter, your application, your resume going straight into the trash bin, or never leaving what they call the slush pile on their desk. What you want to do is make sure your letter makes it clear what your skills are. And this letter can take a lot of different formats. So I'm going to copy a number of examples to you. Again, there isn't any really right example, except that it should be left justified. You should not indent your paragraphs. If you're going to have a list of bullet points, make them simple, nothing super fancy out of Word, the little arrows, the squiggles, whatever, just dots, not even numbers. You don't want them to think that you're putting things in numerical order. The dots mean that they can see whatever order they like. It's also, they don't have to be reading. You can talk about some of the transferable skills that you came off of with that transferable and technical skills worksheet. You can tell them, again, if they're looking for someone who is very detail-oriented, make sure you say that you're detail-oriented. If they want somebody who can, who is very literate, can write well, make sure your letter is really good. Important point. Letters can have no spelling errors. Letters can have no grammatical errors. Most of us are not real good at proofreading what we read, what we write. Any author can tell you horror stories about what happens when they try to do all their proofreading. And then they find out that there are some stupid error. I can even tell you a personal example of that. It happened to me. I wrote a book about nanotechnology one time, and it was a 325-page book, and I spent about a year and a half researching and then writing the book. I must have read that book 25 times. And then I ran it through grammar checkers, spelling checkers. I did everything. I reread it, I rewrote things, I checked, and when I had a question about grammar, I would consult, usually with my wife, but also with some other people. My daughter is also an author, and so I'd consult when I needed to. The book came back from the publisher. It was sent back in galley form, and what you do then is you read it. You read through it. So I read through it again. I found one or two things that they had mistranscribed when they created the galleys. I think it came through with their character conversion routine. And I read it, proofread it, sent it off, said here are my comments. I made a couple of changes, blah blah blah. So the book gets published. I get my author copies. I pick one up. I randomly flip open a page, and there's a typo. And I said, "Oh, you idiots! How could you do that?" So I went back to the galley. Well, the idiot was me. I had missed it. And so never, if you can avoid it, don't proofread your own important stuff. But if you are the one who's going to have to proofread it, write it, set it aside for at least a day. Forget about it. Go read something else. Go work out in the gym. Go do something else. And then come back and read it about a day later. And you'll do a much better job. So you want to proofread it. If there are typos, if there are grammatical errors, you probably won't get past that point in the evaluation. It's that critical. So make sure that you do that. Emphasize the the experience. Emphasize why you are the right person for the job. My experience includes work with. If you're applying for a medical assistant job, my experience was that I was a medical assistant for 2 years at XYZ clinic in Greeley, Colorado. Make sure that you emphasize that you have work experience. That also gives you a leg up. Most people want someone with work experience, which is part of the problem these days, just getting it. So work that way. Excuse me. So you want to be working with all of these different formats. and make sure that the information really makes you look like you're perfect for the job. Always understanding that just because you think you look perfect on paper for the job, someone else might not. But more importantly, everyone knows that people can look perfect on paper, but they walk in the door and either they're either a good fit or they're not. And it might have nothing to do with your skill set, might have nothing to do with your experience, might have nothing to do with anything at all other than there are times when you just walk in, we've all been there, you walk in, you meet someone and you think, I can't get along with this person. And sometimes that's a very bad misimpression, but nonetheless, you have one first impression to make. And so you actually have two first impressions to make on a subject like this. Your first impression is your cover letter and resume. The second first impression is when you actually walk in the door and they physically see you. You need to walk in, knowing that you're have the right qualifications for the job, and knowing that you have the skills that are there. And you need to be able to recognize what you need to do to come across as knowing them. If you've done a lot of interviewing, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, well, it's an experience. The first interview I went on was a total disaster. I mean, I was perfectly qualified for the job, but it was a job working I was taking a degree in chemistry, and the job was as basically a chemical engineer at a petroleum refinery on the Gulf Coast of Texas. And I went on the job interview from New Mexico, where it was snowing, in April, to 95 degrees and 95% humidity. And that didn't work very well for me. It may or may not have affected the way I interviewed, but I knew almost immediately that I did not want to work there. I didn't want to work in a chemical refinery. That was not the type of chemistry I wanted to do. And so we spent a very pleasant day together being interviewed. They had flown me out there. And then 2 days later, I get a letter from them saying, well, we found, we think that we found a better fit for the job. And I thought, well, good, because I wasn't going to be it. But I knew that from the instant I walked in. I've been there a couple of times, walking in and knowing that it wasn't going to work. And it's just a first impression. Is that a good first impression to have? I have no idea. It is something that we do, however, as humans. So, but what you want to do is make sure you can't have that first personal impression if you don't have a good first impression from the cover letter and resume. So that's really what this is, what we're focusing on right now. We're going to focus on some other skills during the course, but that's our major idea now. So I know alone in this right now. This is being just recorded. Again, if you have questions, please email them to me. I do, even though I'm only at school 2 days a week, at home, I do check my email several times a day, and I will find time to answer questions if you send them. Again, if you have trouble submitting assignments, email them to me. That's not a problem. If you have questions, I will answer them. If you have difficulties, if you have challenges, let me know. But more importantly, please don't fall behind. This is a class with an awful lot of work. So I will hope that you can do that. Those of you who have not yet responded to any of the assignments, please do that. Please do them. we need to get you through this class. It is a requirement for graduation. So, having said that, I will hopefully hear from you, and I will see you again on Monday, March 12th. And remember, I've got an announcement, I've sent emails, but remember we have a time change coming this weekend. And the clocks go forward, except in Arizona. And I think that's what we have here. Except in Arizona, the clocks go forward an hour. So it will be, this session will be at 1:30 Mountain Daylight Time on May 12th. And it will be at 1:30 Mountain Daylight Time every day after, every Monday and Wednesday after that. Okay, that being said, I'll close the class out and hopefully hear from you, and maybe have a couple of you online on Monday.